Welcome back to our New Zealand adventure. Now it's day 5 of our 30-day itinerary, and in this video...
Yeah,
well, that wasn't killed me. And we pick up a small travel buddy.
It suddenly became one of these magical places.
A load of weed on it as well. Protected, is it?
What? No. And it killed 256 people and injured thousands. We've set off from Hicks Bay campsite on an overcast morning, and it's supposed to brighten up later today. But we can't believe that at the moment looking at the skies. And we head around to the other side of the bay to take a look at the famous tree at Te Puka town itself.
Yeah,
that's the tree over. But first we need to fill up both motorhomes with diesel. And there are many of these unmanned stations where you put in your card first for either a set amount or just to fill up. Fuel is quite cheap compared to the UK at $2.33 per litre, which is about £1.12 per litre in the UK. And when we left the UK, we were paying £1.30 to £1.40 a litre. And we stock up at a local store which has a really good selection, albeit a bit pricey.
I think you might get some milk in there, Jane.
Yeah, we're just saying that. Do we need anything else? Have we got enough salad stuff over? This tree is reported to be the oldest Puhutakawa species of tree in New Zealand and possibly the world. Now the age online varies from 350 to 600 years, but the local sign says 350, which is still impressive. It has multiple trunks growing out of the ground and is over 21 metres high and 40 metres wide. And I have to say, no matter what the reality is, it's an impressive tree.
breakfast, bacon sandwich.
And after a quick breakfast stop around the headland from the town, it's time for us to head south. We're heading towards the Gisbourne, but we have to stop off at Tolaga Bay first. Now unfortunately, road subsidence is a regular thing on this stretch, so we are constantly having to pull around affected areas. Now amazingly, that promised sun arrives and the journey takes on a different feel. Please support our channel by hitting the like and subscribe buttons now. It's free and it really makes a difference. And we pick up a small travel buddy. And as you can see, some landslides are bigger repairs than others. And our buddy leads the way. Now Caroline has taken on the role as head cafe and food spotter. And once again she comes up and finds a great place called Te Puka Tavern at Tokomaru Bay. And I'm also pretty sure that that's our travel buddy too. And look at the sea in the sun and you can imagine that this just blows us away with the intense turquoise coloured sea. We're lucky it's quiet and we're able to get a prime corner table on the decking area, and soon Stu and Roger get stuck into a seafood platter which they said was perfect.
So that was a fantastic meal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those moments where you just felt you'd landed in paradise.
Yeah, I think it's sort of where New Zealand suddenly, with the weather, because it's been pretty bad weather up to that point, it suddenly became one of these magical places. And to be honest, it's always going to be one of those memories I have of when we were driving off the mountains.
A wow moment.
We had a wow moment. We came around the corner and suddenly the bay was there and it was like this deep turquoise sea. And Caroline got it right by saying let's go for it and go and have a meal just round the corner.
Yeah, Caroline became head of
cafes.
head of cafes locations.
Yeah, and it was just one of those Just those, it just sort of just set us up because of the weather at this point. It looked like it was going to change at this point, and so it was just fantastic. It was. Anyway, so we sort of moved on from that point. We needed to go for a walk. It was midday, and we wanted to go for a walk in the afternoon, try and walk off the lunch more than anything else. So we identified a place called Cooks Cove. So it wasn't too far away. So we carried on driving that way. Got it to it's one of these walks you can go to Cooks Cove. We set off, and on the map, it didn't look very long because we had an ambition to get to Cooks Cove. And on the map, it's not that far. Whatever kilometres was, it wasn't that much. But within 10 minutes, we were hit with. It was like that, wasn't it? It
killed me because I wasn't feeling so great.
Yeah, you were struggling.
And it really. I was the one at the back as always.
It was all the way. I think Jane at some point was going to turn around, and it was a bit of challenging. It was a bit like a child at the point to say, "Are we there yet?" No, it's just round the next hill. Just round the next hill, and it kept going for a while.
It was a bit like taking Kevin out for a walk.
Yeah. And we got to the first bit. I remember we were coming through the woods because it was quite humid as well, if you remember. It was which obviously didn't help with the energy levels. And we got to the first bit. I think there was a bit of a monument there, or sculpture and that. And over to the left there was a campsite where, so if we didn't stay there, but if you wanted to stay there, it looks like there was a campsite right on the beach and there. Just when you get to the top of a hill, there's another hill. It's quite humid today, and that's certainly got the heartbeat going. We've come all the way from down there, so it's quite a climb up. And then we carried on, and it was round the corner, and we came to a viewing platform which looked down on Cooks Cove, and you realised how far there was still to go. At that point, we decided we're not going to do this.
We made an executive decision that. Well, it wasn't just me.
No, we all decided. None of us. It wasn't just Jane. I couldn't have, because we looked down and thought, I don't think I can get there and get back, and also the timing, because we had to get to the campsite where we're going to stop for the night. It became a bigger. So, recommendation, great place to go to, but I wish in a way we'd have gone early morning, because we'd have done the full lot maybe. So in October 1769, James Cook arrived in the Endeavour on his way to Australia, having gone to, I think, the Galapagos Islands. I think that was the journey. He landed apparently in that cove over there, which is now called Cooks Cove. They'd have anchored out, wouldn't they?
There's a load of weed on it as well. Protected, is it?
What, as in soap?
No.
I'm disappointed in him now.
Roger found it quite moving, didn't he, and you?
I did, yeah. It was so the history behind it is that James Cook and the crew and the Endeavour, they landed in the Bay of Plenty down at Gisbourne, and they stopped in a few places, and I think they come from the Galapagos Islands, I think, or something like that, and they'd stopped in Bay of Plenty, then they came up the coast, and they stayed here for about 6 days, and they, the tribe there greeted them, and they got on well with the tribe, and they were sharing, from what we could gather, the skills, etc. But they were also gathering plants and specimens and all that, because it was very much that type of journey when the Endeavour came across. So I think that got on well. And when you're looking down at this cove, because it hasn't got built up, it hasn't changed. I don't think it's changed that much from what we were looking at. And I could just visualise the ship in the harbour, and I think that was it. And it's really got to sort of Roger and I emotionally more than anything else, because I could just envisage them being there. I can imagine them walking, because they walk around the area, and I can imagine them actually treading on the path that we were on, which was, as we went away, I was quite moved by it. So yeah, it was quite emotional and that. So we then turned back. We had a quick selfie. 2, 3, 4. Everybody say scurvy. Scurvy. I don't know where it's gone. The place, took loads of photographs to the top there, because the view was spectacular from the top, and that. I think you were glad to go back because it was all downhill that much, isn't it? But to be perfectly honest, I think we were all ready to go back.
Just around the corner from the Walk car park is the stunning Tolaga Bay wharf. It was built in 1929 to open up and fulfil the trade requirements. and it reached its peak usage in 1936 when 130 ships worked from the port. And in 1999 the locals set up the Tolaga Bay Save the Wharf Charitable Trust, as unfortunately the wharf was in danger of collapsing, and the restoration cost in excess of $5.5 million. And it's obviously got issues today, as we were unable to walk down it, which is a real shame.
The weather's been a lot better today. It's been really sunny. It's had a lovely drive through the hills, lovely valleys, green lush valleys, and it went a bit cool as we went for the walk, which was just as well, to be perfectly honest, but it's humid, so there's a bit of a wind, a bit of a breeze, but it's humid with it. I think it might be night 5 tonight. We've done one freedom camp and then we've stayed on a couple of sites. They range from $60 at the top end, 30 quid, to you know, you can pay, we paid $10 one night, 5 quid, that was just for basically no facilities at all. And then there's freedom campsites everywhere. They also have what they call dock sites, where you might need to get a permit. It's like their council approved places, so it seems really easy to travel around, but obviously we've got 2 vans, it makes it a bit more challenging sometimes on the free side. So we're heading towards Gisbourne now, just north of Gisbourne. We've got a site there for the night. We'll probably be there about 4 or 5 o'clock, I'd guess.
And we arrive at Tokomaru Bay camping site. We had 2 electric hookup pitches. Now this is a really chilled location, and it's at the top end of prices at $60 New Zealand dollars or £30, but occasionally a bit of quality doesn't hurt you. And the showers and the open kitchen areas were of a high standard. A unique secure charging station if you need it. But this location is all about the beach and the bay. And we sat in their outside seating area chatting and having a few drinks as we watched the sun light up the bay. And we all agreed we could have stopped for a second day if it wasn't for the fact we need to hit our ferry slot in a couple of days. So when we wake up in the morning, we reluctantly leave the site. Passing through Gisbourne, Caroline has identified a brunch stop in Wairoa. And it's a gorgeous day and we're well rested. Now we found parking these size vans has been pretty easy, as they really fit in well at the angled town parking in the main, and parking is generally free. And again, something the UK has got wrong, where it charges in most places. And today we're heading for the East End cafe bar that has a reputation for great food. Well, the entrance tiling is really impressive and the scone went down really well. The Marine Parade Street has a mixture of really interesting shops and frontages. And we came across a small Wairoa museum which houses an interesting collection of historical artefacts. One being the repatriation of this Maori war flag. Now weirdly, it was repatriated in 2015 from a Scottish museum in Hawick. The flag was confiscated by the Crown after the Battle of Oamaruakiki in 1865. The battle was part of the New Zealand Wars between colonial forces and the Maori forces. And this is a collection of tuki, which is a chisel type tool, used for various tasks like cutting out canoes, as well as at times more decorative ones being worn around the neck as a sign of courage. So if you visit, the museum is based on donations, so don't be like us where we had to nip out to obtain some cash, as we wanted to leave a payment as it was definitely worth a visit. And we're back on the road, and heading now towards Napier. And once again, enjoy just cruising, which is one of the best parts of a road trip. And we're settling into a routine of having mid-morning brunch or late breakfast followed by some sightseeing. Now, we're not saying it's healthy, but it's also not the worst habit you can have on the road. And we soon approach Napier and head to the old centre where we find a car park facing out across the bay. And we head into Napier, which in the older part is still relatively new, if that makes sense.
So the earthquake in 1939 took 2 minutes and flattened all the buildings from those palm trees all the way to the far end down there. In 2 minutes, every building was flattened. They then rebuilt all of these buildings here in various different styles in 2 years to new building regulations. The old buildings were concrete and brick, which is why they fell. There was no steel rods in them to reinforce. So they were now got new building regulations in those 2 years built, and you can see lots of ties. One of the building regulations was to put ties above the buildings to hold those so that didn't collapse on people should there be a reoccurrence of an earthquake and that.
And at 10:47 a.m. on the 3rd of February, the earthquake occurred in the centre 15 kilometres north of Napier and lasted 2.5 minutes, with 525 aftershocks in the following 2 weeks. And it killed 256 people and injured thousands, and it's one of New Zealand's deadliest natural disasters. And we understand that the death toll could have been a lot worse, but for the fact that the Royal Navy HMS Veronica was in port at the time, and it immediately sent reinforcements to tackle the rescues and the firefighting that occurred. Other ships then came into the region, answering distress calls to support the rescue efforts. And another harsh reminder of the fragile existence sometimes between raw nature and people. And the earthquake caused them to have a review of building practices. And as such, from what we understood, there are only 4 buildings taller than 5 stories high. And as you can see, the centre is now frozen in time, with the rebuilding work occurring during the Art Deco period. And that can now be seen throughout these streets and is in fact the defining influence of Napier. And it has an interesting cosmopolitan feel about it. And so we return to our motorhomes as we're planning a freedom camp, as up till now we've been in the main reliant on campsites. But we know that there are many off-grid parkups that you can utilise, and we now have the confidence we hope to do this.
And in the next episode we have a brunch that surpasses everything we've had so far. This path leads us to a view that stops us in our tracks, and we leave North Island behind.